Hello everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today is not only the start of 2021 but it's also the start of Veganuary and I'll be doing it this year, so I thought I would show you the kind of things that I've bought and some stuff I recommend. I first did Veganuary about 3 years ago and I pretty much never looked back, and I'm still eating a predominantly plant-based diet. And it wasn't easy to begin with. It is quite a big change, and I actually don't recommend going from eating, all the food groups, including meat and dairy, and then going straight to veganism. I personally did quite a phased response, where I first cut out some types of meat, and then only ate seafood, and then cut out seafood, and then slowly started to eliminate animal products like dairy as well. Having said that, the first time I did Veganuary was a bit of a challenge. It's sort of a completely new, different mindset and having to figure out different ways of making sure that you're nice and full, because one thing that a plant-based diet shouldn't be is restrictive. So I'm here to tell you about some things you should definitely buy and give you some recommendations as well to make sure you've got some tasty and fulfilling. What's the word where it fills you up? Tasty and filling meals as well. Disclaimer, I'm not promoting any sort of health benefits from a plant-based diet. I'm not a nutritionist, and for the purpose of this video, I'm not even speaking as a doctor from the health point of stuff at all. This is a decision that I made based on other factors, largely to do with the planet and the environment, and also from an animal welfare point of view as well. If you want to get into a bit more about the why of a plant-based diet, because I think sticking to something is always a lot easier when you know the reasons behind it, then head to my Instagram, where I'll be delving a bit more into the environmental benefits of a plant-based diet and why I think it's such a good idea that it's something people think a bit more about and lean a bit more towards if they can. I don't think that a few of us going 100% plant-based is the answer to all of the problems that the planet's facing right now, but I do think that if more of us just made tiny changes, then I think the changes can be absolutely monumental, both for the planet and for the animals as well. Okay, so what I find helps me to make nutritious and filling meals at home that are quite quick, easy to take to work and easy to make when you're short of time, is to make sure that I'm always well stocked with the essentials. So sort of larder items, things like non-perishables, those things are really cheap to buy, easy to store, and can be used to make so many meals. So I'll take you through some of the ones I always have at home. No kitchen larder supply is complete without a very big bag of pasta at the very least. You don't need me to tell you how versatile pasta is. It's just like a really standard sort of fusilli pasta. Another thing I was looking for to show you guys from the supermarkets, which I couldn't find, is things like red lentil pasta. You can even get edamame pasta. They are a little bit more expensive, but they are just as tasty and have a really good protein content. Something else that you could eat with tons of meals obviously includes rice as well. You can buy these pre-cooked packets, which are super quick. You just put them in the microwave or a pan for a couple of minutes and they're pretty much ready to eat. I don't really tend to buy these packets very often because we have probably about 20 kilograms worth of rice in this house at any one time. If you know, you know. I like to have a few of these in the house when I'm looking for something quicker. Really interesting thing about transitioning to a plant-based diet is you've cut certain food groups out, you explore the ones you're left with a lot more. So I found that I started eating a lot more things that I never used to eat before to introduce more variety into my meals. And so I started eating things like quinoa sometimes, couscous. This is a big jar from Costco, I think, and it's already sort of pre-spiced, so it's got a bit of flavour.
Let me add a little bit of spice to that.
I also make sure I've also always got some noodles at home. These are some rice noodles which I used to make like a Vietnamese pho. I think that's how you pronounce it. But also if you ever want to make any stir fries or anything, then this is a good one to go to. I also make sure I'm always well stocked with oats because I often have hot oats for breakfast. Again, it's really easy to make. I usually mix in cocoa powders, protein powders, berries, nuts, seeds, etc. Okay, so next, moving on to some more non-perishables that you can easily store at home. So I always make sure I've got a few of these tins lying around at home. So this is red kidney beans and chickpeas. Really easy to throw into curries, throw into salads, and a good source of protein as well. Also got some refried beans here, really good for Mexican food like wraps and burritos. and of course some trusty old baked beans. So I usually have 2 or 3 of these each lying in my cupboard. Also got some coconut milk. I actually use this a lot more than I thought I would. These are really good if you're obviously making some Thai food, Thai green curries, Thai red curries. Also, if you've got old vegetables that are about to go off, getting quite soft, you can blend them up into soups, and this adds a really nice dash of coconut flavour into them. So yeah, lots of uses for this. Super cheap, super easy to store, and really, really versatile as well. So definitely stock up well on these. Speaking of plant-based protein sources, a large part of my diet is actually made up of lentils. That's partly because I live at home. As a family, we often eat Indian meals, and with vegetarian and vegan Indian food, lentils make up a huge part of it in the form of various dals.
Oh yeah.
Incredibly cheap to buy and last forever. I'd be lying if I said I had any idea how to make them as tasty as my family do, but I eat them a lot, so I would recommend if you know what you're doing with them. But even if you don't, there are some shortcuts as well. Again, you can buy these pre-cooked lentil dishes, which you can put together really quickly, add your own vegetables if you want, and mix in some carbs. This is a Mexican style lentils, perfectly cooked, so it's ready to eat hot or cold. Never eaten them cold, but I guess you could mix them into a salad or something as well. So yeah, definitely recommend lots of lentils. Now it goes without saying that fruit and vegetable make up a huge part of my diet. What I find with a plant-based diet is I eat bigger quantities of the food I'm eating to make sure I'm still full afterwards, and that often means more vegetables, more fruit. Also in the last few years I've definitely eaten more different types of fruit and vegetables than I ever used to eat before. So things I always tend to buy pretty much every week are things like mushrooms, peppers, courgettes, sometimes aubergines. These again go into pretty much anything. If you're making pasta, if you're making a stir fry, if you're making a curry. Talking about new fruit and vegetable that I never used to eat before. This is one of the examples. So these are sweet Ramiro peppers, which I didn't even know existed, but I think I must have seen them used on a vegan page somewhere on Instagram, and I've started using them a lot now. They're a little bit sweeter than normal peppers, and they're just really delicious. So really glad I found these. It wouldn't be a true vegan plant-based haul without mentioning the holy avocado.
Peel the avocado, peel the avocado.
Sometimes I eat avocado on toast when I'm at home and I've got a bit more time for breakfast, but today I'm using it to make some fresh guacamole. A big category of snacks is obviously from fruit, so I usually have a banana every morning. I've also got some berries here, so some raspberries and blueberries that I picked up today because I use them a lot when I make my oats in the morning. So yep, that's some fruit for you. Okay, so I've shown you some carb bases like rice, pasta, noodles, quinoa, couscous. I've shown you a whole load of vegetables, as well as protein sources like kidney beans and chickpeas. But there are some extra things that I always make sure are well stocked in my cupboards to make sure I can turn all those things into some really tasty meals. If you want to make anything curry based or something with a bit of gravy, then chopped tomatoes are super easy to add, really good flavour, really cheap as well. For Chinese dishes, I always make sure I've got some stir fry sauces, so you can mix these in with tofu or just some vegetables, and have them with noodles or rice. On that note, I always make sure I've got some soya sauce as well. I use this a lot to help me make marinades to flavour things like tofu. And then I also picked up these Thai curry pastes. So we've got red curry paste here, green curry paste. Next we've got some trusty pasta sauce. So most of the tomatoey, onion, garlicky ones are vegan already, but you can now get vegan pesto and vegan cheesy sauces as well. Got some vegan basil pesto by Scala, and by Scala again we've got some vegan cheese sauce as well. So tofu is an interesting character. It takes a while to understand him and understand how he works, and there's lots of different varieties as well, which has taken me a while to discover. You can get the tofu which is sort of suspended in some liquid. You have to dry it, you have to press it and drain it, and it's all a little bit tedious. More recently there have been lots of brands of more firm tofu which are already very dry and have a much nicer texture in my opinion, so I kind of prefer them now. So this is a brand called Tofu, and this is their smoked version, so it's got a little bit more flavour. If you want to see some recipes that have worked for me throughout the years, then head to my Instagram where I'll be posting some recipes throughout January. So everything I've talked about so far is a food in its own right, if that makes sense. They're not trying to mimic anything or replace anything. But like I said at the beginning, I really believe that a truly healthy balanced diet, whether it's plant-based, meat-based, whatever, for it to be truly healthy and balanced, it should never be restrictive. And I know when I first turned plant-based, I was really worried that I'd miss a lot of foods and therefore resent the decision and therefore not really stick to it and not really enjoy it, even if I knew the theory of why I was doing it. So I think it really is important to find these replacements, and the amazing thing is that the choice of these replacements has grown exponentially over the last few years, literally in front of my eyes. Where there used to be one product or even no products, there's now 5, 10, 15 different brands offering it. So it's an amazing time to go plant-based because I'm confident that you won't feel restricted and you'll still enjoy your meals and get the same sort of tastes and flavours that you're used to. So first up are the milks. So I remember waking up on the 1st of January 3 years ago when I did my first Veganuary, and I've had a bowl of cereal with milk every morning for as long as I can remember, and I hadn't really stocked up before the 1st of January or thought of an alternative, and I was so upset when I got to breakfast and realised I couldn't eat what I wanted to eat. I felt like I'd already failed and proven that this was not sustainable and not something that I could stick to on day one, meal one of day one as well. But I soon discovered that there are lots of other choices, and since then those choices have increased even more. So when I was starting out, there was just good old soya milk, which is great, but since then there have been tons of other choices. There's oat milk, which is actually my go-to for breakfast every morning, whether it's with oats or with cereal. There's also options for hot drinks, because some of the plant-based milks tend to curdle a bit and not really mix very well with teas and coffees. So now they've got a barista edition of this oat milk. There is cashew milk, hazelnut milk, almond milk, rice milk. When I was in Australia, I even tried some macadamia milk, which was delicious. So yeah, go crazy, try them all. I'm sure there'll be one that you like the taste of and that you can feasibly replace dairy milk with. Even if this is the only change you make, the impacts are huge. So this is a really easy change I think a lot of people can make. I don't think taste is compromised or cost. Sticking on the dairy theme, we've got some yogurts here. So this is the Alpro vanilla yogurt and the Alpro just normal yogurt. We use this a lot to eat on the side with Indian cooking, so I eat this a lot. And I think this one, the one without any sugar, is the one that's the closest to the dairy yogurt that I used to have. And now we must talk about cheese. Cheese has been a bit of a battle over the years. I was the biggest cheese eater when I ate dairy. I absolutely loved it, had it with everything I could. It's actually the only thing I still miss. However, there has been a huge player that entered my life around maybe a year ago, and that is Applewood. I didn't buy a new one today, so you can see this one has been well eaten. It is pretty much the best vegan cheese I've ever had. It's a smoked flavour, and most importantly it melts, which a lot of the vegan cheeses don't, and it tastes really good. I still don't think it's quite replicated the cheese flavour. A lot of the vegan cheeses end up tasting basically like socks, like worn socks.
Delightful.
But not this one. This is delicious. I think you'll like it because I like it.
I like it a little bit spicy.
Okay, so now for some meat replacements. The number and variety of these have absolutely blown up in the last few years. They're available now in pretty much all restaurants and all supermarkets. I tend to eat these probably less than everything I've shown you so far, perhaps a couple of times a week, if that. They are usually made from things like pea protein, soy protein. Somehow the flavors and the textures are so meat-like, it's honestly scary. So here we've got some sausages. So here's some cocktail sausages which we used for our Christmas instead of pigs and blankets, which were really delicious. My favorite sausages by far are the Richmond meat-free ones. These ones are absolute sorcery. I do not understand how these aren't meat because they taste exactly like it. And people often ask, like, if you like the taste of meat, then why are you plant-based? Why don't you just eat meat? There are certain things about eating meat, eating animals, that don't sit well with me anymore. But that doesn't mean that when I used to eat it, I didn't enjoy it, and it doesn't mean I don't still miss the taste. those flavors and those dishes are still so easy to achieve with all the variety we have at the moment. And I'm speaking obviously from the UK, but I know that these are becoming more popular in lots of other places. I've also got some chicken nuggets here, make really good snacks sometimes when I'm short of time and I just want to chuck something in the oven. I've tried tons of brands of these. This is the Bird's Eye one, but there are so many here, you'll see them in every supermarket. So yeah, really nice.
It's nice.
I think I've got a bit of an ice cream problem. Seriously, look how much variety there is now. I know one of the barriers to a plant-based or vegan diet is that it's perceived to be sometimes more expensive. And that is true if you're buying predominantly things like this. So these branded items that are direct replacements of their animal product versions, they tend to be a little bit more expensive, but even in the last few years, I've seen them become so much more affordable as the demand for them goes up. But it's important to remember that the majority of the food I've shown you and the majority of the food I eat are incredibly cheap, incredibly available, accessible. Things like the lentils, the beans, the fruit and vegetable, the pastas and rices. Those are so easy to buy, so easy to source, and so affordable. So don't think that you have to be spending tons of money to have a plant-based diet. These things are bought exactly in the same spirit as when I used to buy the animal product versions. So they're very much treats. Sometimes I buy myself a treat and then another treat and then another treat and another treat, and then they all accumulate, and then they also last a long time. It's not like I'm eating them every day. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not coming at this from a health point of view, but there are some supplements I use, and that's from a combination of health reasons and convenience reasons as well. So I thought I'd share them here. So firstly, this strange looking thing is called nutritional yeast. They're kind of just like dry flakes, which have a bit of a cheesy, nutty sort of flavor. So it tastes really, really good when sprinkled on things like pasta or risottos, if you want that kind of flavor. And once they're mixed in with some heat, they become a little bit thick and gloopy as well to give you that cheesy kind of feel. That's all nice and lovely, but a great thing is that this contains B12, which is one of the few things I truly think you cannot achieve nutritionally from a plant-based diet, because it naturally occurs only in animal products. So for that, I think this is a really good product to have in your cupboard as well. That note, I do also take a multivitamin, or I try and take a multivitamin every day. This has got B12 in it. As far as B12 goes, it is something that I think you need to make sure you're supplementing elsewhere, because it won't really come naturally from your food. The milks I showed you earlier, most of them now are supplemented, but still not in the quantities that your body needs. So definitely do some research if you're thinking of going plant-based for the long run. If you're just doing Veganuary and seeing how it goes, then nothing to worry about, because your B12 stocks in your body, they last quite a long time, so you won't be becoming deficient in them anytime soon. Other supplements I use, and this is very much a convenience thing as well as a taste thing, but also back in the pre-lockdown days when we could go to the gym, and I was interested in building a bit more muscle mass, I found this was a really good way to increase my protein content to a level I needed for muscle gain. For day-to-day living, for general health, the foods I've shown you will provide the amount of protein you need, but this is my absolute go-to vegan protein that I use. I mix this in with my oats and sometimes make shakes with it as well, more when I was going to the gym. But this is the Awesome Supplements vegan protein. It is the chocolate salted caramel flavor, and it's delicious. It literally smells and tastes like cake, and it's got quite a bit of protein in it as well. I think it's about 22 grams, something like that. Sometimes as well I have some vegan protein bars. Again, when I'm not really training or looking for muscle gain, I don't really tend to eat these. These ones are from My Protein. But yeah, if you look online, there's tons of choices. Okay, the last category of thing I wanted to talk about were things that are accidentally vegan. So things that aren't labeled to be plant-based or vegan, and things that you wouldn't necessarily realize are already vegan. I follow a really good Instagram page, I think it's called Accidentally Vegan, where they post all of these foods, and I really recommend following it, because you might realize that things you're already eating and already have at home actually are free of animal products. So one thing that really surprised me were these chocolate bourbon biscuits, which have absolutely no dairy in them. Other things may not necessarily say suitable for vegans, because they might be made in factories where they're handling dairy products. So for For example, this Green and Black's chocolate, most of their dark chocolates actually don't have any milk in them. And one thing you'll get really good with, and notice you have to do a lot when you start doing some more plant-based shopping, is reading labels and quickly spotting out which things are vegan, which things are not. So this, in the actual ingredients, they don't have any animal products, but it does say may contain nuts and milk, which a lot of food products have to do to just make sure that they're covered in case there are any people who are actually allergic to those food groups, to make them aware that it might not be suitable for them. As long as you haven't got any serious intolerances or allergies, a lot of foods like this are completely fine because they don't actually contain any dairy in them. Another thing that's been amazing to discover is this Just Roll cinnamon swirls. Super tasty. You just basically pull out this tube, cut them, put them in the oven for 10 minutes, and then you've got delicious hot cinnamon rolls. So I love these as well. And actually all the pastries from Just Roll, so they're puff pastry, short crust, phyllo pastry, they are all suitable for vegans, and you can use them for so many dishes. Okay, so that's everything from me. I hope that was useful. Whether you're thinking of going more plant-based, making a few swaps here and there, or going all in for full-on Veganuary, I wish you all the best. If you want to know some more recipes and some more of the reasoning behind this whole plant-based thing, then head to my Instagram. I'll be sharing some of the things I've learnt and read that have made me really passionate towards sticking to a plant-based diet myself, and also encouraging others, if it's within their means, to give it a go as well. It's amazing the variety we have right now, and it's amazing the impact it can have on the planet if enough of us just make small changes. So definitely worth considering. Happy New Year again, and see you soon. Oh, I'm holding that the wrong way. Great.